I am going to lose you in a few minutes, so I want to start with you. Big picture, for someone who is just tuning in, what are the top lines on this reporting? What most stands out to you?
Donald Trump has paid little or no income taxes in this century. In 2 years, he paid a plug-in amount, $750, that's of no consequence, while paying vastly larger sums in taxes to foreign governments, Panama, the Philippines, and elsewhere. He has taken dubious deductions on behalf of his son. He may have engaged in gift tax fraud, and he has lost unbelievable sums of money. In 2008 and 2009, he took tax deductions totaling $1.4 billion that wiped out his tax obligation at that time. And what this illustrates is why Donald Trump doesn't want you to see his tax returns, other than the one that I published at DC Report 3 years ago, and that he has good reason to try and argue falsely that he can't release his returns because he's under audit. Once you've signed your return, nothing changes by releasing it. There is no legitimate reason for Donald Trump to withhold his tax returns. This is entirely something he's trying to do to protect his image.
Renato, we have spoken with many journalists. We have lots of questions. We've also spoken with political analysts. Zerlina is, of course, a recovering attorney. But I ask you, as a former federal prosecutor wearing that hat, what does this reporting tell you, and what questions does it leave you with?
It leaves me with a lot of questions. I think a moment ago there was a discussion of potential gift tax fraud. And if you're looking at what might be criminal here versus what may be a civil violation, and we know, of course, that there's a very large potential civil violation here, given that there's an audit and a very, very large claimed deduction and refund. The potential to, for example, he's paying Ivanka Trump very large sums of money. The real focus for a criminal charge would be what is false in these tax returns, and what did Donald Trump know about those false statements? In other words, Donald Trump's going to try to say, well, I was just signing things that were put in front of me. But for a criminal charge, you'd have to prove that he knew that that statement was false, and that he made that knowing that he was going to help him evade tax in some way, or knowing that it was unlawful in some way. That's the burden of proof. And it's going to be very interesting, I think, in the coming weeks, as there's a lot of scrutiny over these, I think, impossible to defend tax returns, if the New York Times reporting is correct, as to, for example, accountants and others, other advisors in his corporation. I would like to hear from them. Did they advise him to make these deductions? What did they have to say about these, for example, gifts to his daughter and some of the other very questionable amounts here? I think those are going to be the questions that prosecutors would want to ask.
David, this goes back to the point you were making around the verbiage around accountants.
Yes, and the two things we know from the past that are very important. Donald had 2 income tax fraud trials over his 1984 tax return. He lost both of those trials. He had fabricated hundreds of thousands of dollars of deductions that did not exist. He altered the tax return itself, according to his own witness, to create and fabricate these. So we have good reason to be suspicious of Donald. Secondly, from an audit the city of New York did over one of his deals, Donald has a history of lying and denying and saying, oh, I have no records, or a water pipe broke and destroyed the records, when in fact he had the records. So one of the things the prosecutors, it's very clear in the Manhattan case, the state level case, are looking at are the business records at the accounting firm and the transactions. They've asked specifically for communications between Donald Trump and the accountants and for draft tax returns. And I suspect we'll find out that they did things on Donald's orders rather than following proper legal advice, because that's how Donald has operated throughout the 32 years that I've been writing about him.
Zerlina, I want to read you a tweet from Senator Elizabeth Warren. She writes, Donald Trump paid just $750 in income taxes in 2016 and 2017. He knows better than anyone that there's one set of rules for the wealthy and giant corporations and another for hardworking Americans. And instead of using his power to fix it, he's taken advantage of it at